Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel where we have our penultimate Premier League analysis video of the season. You'll notice I've got a slightly different background today. That's because I'm setting up for the live stream later. Speaking of which, if you subscribe with notifications on, you will get a notification when I go live. Depending on what day you're watching this video, the 26th of May, 12:30 PM, British summertime, we will be live. So if you want to join the live stream, get your thoughts in the chat, then make sure to check it out. But in terms of this video, we're talking about Manchester United's 4-1 win over Chelsea in one of the weirdest games of football of the season. Such an odd game, really lacking in quality at times. Tactically, I didn't like what I was seeing, particularly from either side. But Manchester United scored 4 goals. They had their highest ever XG in a Premier League game. They should have scored about 7. So, straight away, really, really weird game. So we're going to talk about kind of what Ten Hag done, right and wrong. Same for Frank Lampard. And of course just the general tactics. And we will start with United playing out from the back. This video will mainly focus on United in possession. Chelsea actually had more of the ball, but United were more effective with what they done. So it starts with United playing the ball out from the back, where De Gea wasn't really put under any pressure, so he could pass to one of his 2 centre-backs. From here, what we then saw was sort of a rotating front 2 from Chelsea, with Gallagher and Havertz kind of taking it in turns. One of them presses the ball, the other one covers Casemiro. The ball goes across like this, Gallagher would then step out, Havertz drops in onto Casemiro. And that's kind of what Chelsea were going for, but they done it pretty slowly. So, you know, kind of between Varane and Lindelof, they could kind of slowly step up the pitch and play these 1-2s to each other. And this allowed them to, like I said, just kind of slowly step forward. It's not particularly quick football, but it allowed United to play out from the back. The other problem in terms of Chelsea's press from here was that it was just disconnected. The Chelsea wingers were just not involved in the press. Normally, if you're trying to go and press high, you want your wingers nice and high. That wasn't the case for Chelsea. The wingers were quite deep, which meant that United could kind of overload in these areas, move the ball forward pretty easily. We can see that the fullbacks are now going to be free options out wide as well. And yeah, it was a poor attempt at a press from Chelsea. In terms of Lampard, again, it kind of highlights the naivety with his tactical structure. Too easy for United to play out from the back, which then allowed them to build possession. And when building possession, United went with a bit of a kind of different structure to normal. We had Casemiro sitting in here as the pivot, and United were essentially in a 2-3 shape. Now, kind of the modern day 2-3 shape which we expect is something like this, with the 2 midfielders pushing up into the advanced 8 spots, and the fullbacks invert just a little bit to provide security on the transition. But we didn't see that from United, and instead the fullbacks were actually quite high, and the midfielders were a little bit deeper like this, but also not that deep. And it just all round led to a really weird game of football because the structure was odd. It's not a structure we normally see in the Premier League. Now from here we did have Martial dropping deeper as well, and neither of the centre-backs particularly want to follow him, so it did allow United to create a 4 versus 2 at times. But again, quality on the ball, it just wasn't there. We know that Bruno Fernandes and Christian Eriksen always have quite low passing percentages because they try and play forward quite quick. Martial was a player where we expect more security. He is in the team to kind of hold the ball up, link the play, and bring his teammates into the game and keep possession for his side. I thought Martial was really poor at doing this, really sloppy. The ball's coming into him, and his first touch at times was horrendous. I don't know why, because his control's normally very good, but his control wasn't very good in this game. And that instantly is going to lead to turnovers in the middle of the park, which kind of was a problem for Manchester United at times, but we'll come back onto that. In terms of the more successful side of the game, we saw the fullbacks pushing high, which allowed the wingers to come inside a little bit. And this led to a quick game of football, because what we can see is that United have got a bit of time on the ball in the middle of the park here, because I've got the spare man, they've played through the press quite easily, they've got the spare man in the midfield like this, and then you've got Anthony and Sancho, who are both trying to make runs off the ball. Occasionally Bruno would go as well. So United now had opportunities where they can see players ahead of them making runs off the ball into good positions, into good areas, and when you've got players like Casemiro, Bruno Fernandes and Christian Eriksen, when they see those runs, they try and hit them. And this is what led to a very, very, very fast first half of football. Because every time the ball was into these areas, United were pinging it. United were trying to go long as quick as possible, get this runner in Jadon Sancho in behind, or Anthony in behind. United, like I said, it was a weird game. There was no control. Because United had the spare man, they had the time, they could get their head up, see the runner. It's then about, can you play the pass? And as much as I'm saying it lacks control and things like that, it allowed United to get in some really very good positions. The amount of times we saw the Chelsea defenders outnumbered in these positions was ridiculous. I've spoken in the past about Chelsea's lack of holding midfielder in a team. Bruno Fernandes could push into these areas, Martial here, Sancho, Antony, one of the fullbacks making a run as well. United overloaded this Chelsea defence so much. We had a 3 versus 1 which Manchester United messed up. We had a 4 versus 3. We had Bruno Fernandes miss a really good chance. United should have had another penalty. So despite scoring 4 goals, United could have doubled that tally genuinely quite comfortably, because every time they got the ball, Chelsea's defensive structure was just horrendous. It's far too spread, it's far too wide open, they're also being overloaded on the last line. It's just a bit of a mess really. Before we continue with the analysis, I want to talk to you guys about JerseyFIFA.com, the home of all of the greatest football kits. Whether that's the latest home shirts, the latest away shirts, tracksuits, or even retro kits, Jersey FIFA has a bit of everything. There really is something for everyone, so if you are interested, then make sure to use the link in the description down below and head to JerseyFIFA.com. Now, of course, United were also forced into a change with Antony going off injured. It looks like it might be an injury which ends this season, but we'll just have to wait and see in Ten Hag's interview later. But this meant that Rashford came into the side a lot earlier than we were expecting. Sancho went on the right wing. When you add Marcus Rashford to this attack, you get something a little bit different, because he is that much faster, he's that much more powerful, and he himself puts fear in the opposition defence. So again, United are getting into these transitioning situations, they're playing through really very easily, but the conviction was still lacking. Again, Martial's touch in situations was poor, Bruno Fernandes was not quite finding the pass, Rashford looked a little, ever so slightly rusty. I actually thought he played quite well, but a little bit rusty after missing a few weeks. Sancho was the one which looked like he had good quality. I think he had 5 key passes in the end of this game, and playing on the right hand side, he seemed to get a burst of confidence, especially after getting his assist as well. He seemed to be full of confidence and playing really well. Now, I still have a couple of concerns. I thought off the ball he wasn't very good. I thought his kind of tracking back in the opening stages of the game was quite poor. And also, he just has these moments where he gets the ball, he's got a really simple pass on, but the pass is almost too simple, that he's too laid back, almost a bit of arrogance, and therefore he misses sloppy passes. So that was a little bit annoying about his performance, but in general I thought he played really well, so that was good to see. But in terms of if we're talking from a tactical point of view, this was the game state. Chelsea defensively, just awful. They've been like it for a while, we know what to expect, we know this is going to be the case. And United were therefore able to exploit that. The football was chaotic, there was absolutely no control, but United had really good opportunities. So they should have scored way more than they did, and you know, if United win this game 7-0 for example, you can't exactly complain. However, like I always say in football, it's never as good as it looks, never as bad as it looks. And you know, it's easy to look at this and say Manchester United won 4-1, battered Chelsea. Easy win, nothing went wrong, great performance. But it wasn't the case. I didn't like the structure which we saw. Because of the fullbacks playing quite wide, but also the midfielders dropping a little bit but not enough, it meant that any time that Chelsea won the ball, United were exposed. Casemiro, the gaps either side of Casemiro were huge. And that isn't a criticism of Casemiro, just to confirm. That is a structural problem. He was left isolated. And with the energy of someone like Gallagher in the midfield carrying the ball forward, he's very good. Mudryk and Madueke are going to try and expose the gaps behind the fullbacks. But also, Chukwuemeka against Eriksen was an absolute mismatch. Physically, Chukwuemeka is very strong, but also athletic. He's got a lot of energy. Eriksen is the opposite. Eriksen, at the moment, physically, is a massive hindrance to this team because he just can't compete. He works hard, he covers ground, but he does it so slowly. And any sort of physical battle, he just gets done in. And that is a problem which needs to be addressed. Because like I said, it left the defence exposed time and time again. Now in the second half we did see a slight change with this. We saw the fullbacks coming a little bit deeper and a little bit narrower, which meant that when United lost the ball, they were more set up to deal with transition. But they still had attacking threat because now Eriksen and Fernandes were a little bit higher. Of course you've got Sancho playing well, Rashford playing well on the left hand side. And this kind of in the second half allowed United to take a bit more control of the game, even if it was still transitional. They felt like they were defending a bit better because of these fullbacks being tucked, and that's kind of what saw the improvement in the second half. They were also slightly more clinical in the way that they attacked, had a bit more conviction about their approach, but still they should have scored more. United should have had 3 or 4 goals. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on that kind of structural problem of Casemiro being exposed. In the second half it was somewhat addressed. We also saw Lindelof being really aggressive as well, so anytime Gallagher dropped into these areas, Lindelof would follow him all the way, and that kind of helped Casemiro out a little bit. So Ten Hag deserves a bit of credit for making that change. But in general, again, it was just a chaotic game. And another reason it was chaotic was because Chelsea had a similar issue. So when Chelsea attacked, let's just quickly kind of put them into a rough attacking shape. They were looking to push their fullbacks nice and high. The wingers were coming inside like this. And what they had was Enzo Fernandez and the 2 centre-backs at the back dealing with things by themselves. And again, when you've got a counter-attack containing Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho, Anthony Martial with Bruno Fernandes trying to play them forward, again, it's the same problems. Enzo Fernandez is far too exposed in this area, which means that Manchester United can get into these transitioning situations. This is how they quickly created those 4 versus 3s, those 3 versus 1s. United should have scored more goals. And I think what we saw from a tactical point of view in terms of defending the transition and counter-pressing in this game was why both of these teams are not at the level of City and Arsenal yet. It was, from Ten Hag, it was a little bit odd. We don't normally see this sort of approach, so I'm not sure why he went for it. At the end of the day, it worked. They won 4-1. But Lampard, this is kind of what we expect, because tactically, it's not very good. It leaves them so exposed to the counter-attack, and that is what we saw all game. No player really put their foot on the ball and slowed it down, apart from maybe Sancho in the final third, and that led to a really, really chaotic game. Chelsea could have had 3 more goals than what they did. United should have had 4 more goals than what they did. In terms of long-term sustainability, this sort of performance won't really cut it. If United turn up like this for the FA Cup final, they'll get battered. But we'll just have to wait and see. In terms of this game, it is the 4-1 win. And, you know, you can't complain about a 4-1 win. Manchester United scored 4 goals, which doesn't happen very often this season. They secured Champions League football, which was the target at the start of the season. So that was really, really good. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of bring a bit of realism to that performance, because it is easy to look at it, say we scored 4 goals, we must have been fantastic. I just want to put a bit of a dampener on spirit and say it wasn't as perfect as we would want. However, like I said, you score 4 goals against big rivals, it's a good evening at the end of the day. So I think that's all I've got to say for today's video. I think that is the main points covered, so thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. Like I said, if you want to join the live stream later, we will be previewing the Fulham game to see how United can secure 3rd in the Premier League, and we will also be talking about the future of Weghorst and Sabitzer at the club. So subscribe with notifications on by tapping the bell, if that is something what you want. Apart from that, thank you for watching, I hope you have enjoyed it, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.